My name is David Saltman. I'm the chairman, founder of Malama Composites. Our name actually, everyone says, what's Malama? Malama means to care for and protect in Hawaiian, and our logo is a kuru, which is actually an unfolding fern leaf, and it's the Polynesian symbol of the regenerative power of nature. So that gives you some hint of what we do. We actually manufacture rigid urethane foams made from bio-based sustainable materials. And so our materials, our products, go into other products that make them stronger, lighter, less expensive, and far less toxic and healthier than the alternative petroleum-based products. Our financial metrics are really driven by very low capex, very high margins, and finally the ability to scale globally. We're in the middle of raising $3 million under a Series B. Our competitors are very large. Dow, Huntsman, BASF, these guys all come from a vertically oriented petrochemical industry. They take a side A, usually toluene or methylene diisocyanate. It's as wicked as it sounds. They combine that with petroleum polyols, essentially hydrogenated oils, and they make foams. These two parts come together, they foam up, and they become rigid foams. Unfortunately, they generate off-gassing, they generate pollution, they're energy, very intensive energy, inefficient, and finally almost impossible to do anything with when you're done. Our products take side A of methylene materials. We combine that with polyols that we derive primarily from castor and even recycled PET from milk bottles. And our products generate no emissions, water or air pollutions in our factory. We're sited right in San Diego, about a mile from La Jolla, if you can imagine that. Our factories are clean. And finally, our products are very easily recycled once they have outlived their useful life cycle. So we are directly cost competitive and performance competitive with the alternative materials. And after 20 years in clean tech, I will tell you that you got to get these first two things right. If you are cost competitive, and you are performance competitive, and you are green, then you have a good shot at winning. And that's what we're about ready to do. So we measure up to all the metrics under ASTM test standards: strength, impact resistance, moisture resistance, very high R value, which is insulation value, but at the same time, we're a zero-emission material. And in fact, our bio-based products sequester carbon. So every pound of our foam sequesters 2.6 pounds of carbon. At some point, there will be carbon factored in to the equation. We enter very large markets. So our markets are in building and construction, the automotive industry, insulated packaging. So we enter existing $9.5 billion marketplace with competitive products. Our launch strategy, however, was to really focus on a couple of niche markets where we could establish our brand, where we had the capacity to serve those markets, and finally where we could utilize a platform, a technology platform, to grow into larger markets. And where we found these is actually in the industrial design community. Foams are used widely to shape and sculpt all kinds of things. So those guys that you see standing in the middle, they're shaping what turns out to be, I'm told, a stegosaurus that is going into the Chicago Museum. I'm sorry, a Spikosaurus. It's on the cover of National Geo this time. We utilized the artists and designers to work on a foam that shaped and sculpted. And the reason was that these guys were being directly exposed to an insulation foam that they were using that off-gases pentane gas. And so they were sickening and even dying. Same thing was happening in the surfboard industry. That's my friend Rusty Preisendorfer on the right-hand side. And you can see all the foam that these guys use to make surfboards, and yet they're directly exposed to toluene, which not only do they absorb in their skin, they breathe, and it's a B1 carcinogen. And so we developed foam specifically for these markets. As we did that, we found that we could take that technology platform and develop pore foams for wider industries. So the packaging, insulated packaging industry is about a $500 million marketplace, and our foams were directly comparable to alternative foams. And so now we're opening that market. We just begin to generate sales in this regard. That same pore foam, which we call Pacific Biofoam, is now being used. We're just beginning the early stages of working with Ford Motors and Visteon, which is their tier 1 supplier, to look at insulated door panels. And also in the appliance industry, every single refrigerator, every single oven that you've ever seen is polyurethane foam. So you don't think of these products as being filled with foam, but indeed they are, mostly for their insulation value, but also their moisture resistance. Our growth strategy, which just really begins at the end of this year, is to parlay these types of materials into the building and construction industry. Obviously a longer adoption cycle, but when you're in it, it's 3/4 of all urethane foams in the world go into building and construction as rigid insulation. And we've really come up with a product now called Ioncor, where we have achieved higher R value, higher moisture resistance, and better fire ratings than any other urethane foam on the market today, but it utilizes none of the brominated or chlorinated fire retardants that have really plagued this industry. So if you go Google toxic foams, but you're going to come up with this brominated and chlorinated compounds used as fire retardants, these have none of those. And these are all secret sauce. That's part of what we do. Very powerful market drivers are in our sales. Those include LEED certification under the U.S. Green Building Council, but also the federal government has green purchasing guidelines, and the U.S. Department of Agriculture also has a program they call bio-preferred programs that give you brownie points if you can meet their performance requirements and their cost requirements, and of course we do that. Our business strategy, we do not patent. We hold our formula as trade secret, just like Coca-Cola or WD-40 and a whole range of companies. If you publish our formulas, then people can do a workaround those formulas, change a molecule and claim it as their own. So really in this industry, in the composites industry, you hold them as trade secret. In terms of our launch strategy, I really described to you, we're launching in niches and now we're growing out into the commodity world. And finally, we're really moving, as we do that, we're transitioning from being a product manufacturer to a strategic partner with others. So think again, Coca-Cola, we hold the secret sauce, but we're going to work with our bottlers, manufacturers around the world. It doesn't make sense to ship foam from the Port of Long Beach around the world. You're mostly shipping air, so you would team with other manufacturers in order to do your actual physical on-site manufacturing, if that makes sense. I'm very lucky to have assembled an incredibly talented team. My CFO, Steve Yasko, has done $5.5 billion of clean tech projects around the world on 6 of 7 continents, primarily in wind projects, but he's mastered at project finance. Rakesh Patel is the father of bio-based foams. We're getting close, okay, and finally Camille's just mastered a business. So we've raised money, we've generated sales, we're in the middle of a raise, we're a very rapid launch. So this is really that inflection point where we go from R&D is done, now it's really commercialization that we're heading into. Use of proceeds, primarily, this will be the first time we've ever advertised our product. So it's really very important for us to add a little bit of capacity, extend our capabilities, some CapEx with regards to our own manufacturing, particularly blending, so we don't have to do any toll blending outside of our own plants, and then to be able to market our materials. That's it.